mob into abstracted Amazing Digital Circus characters with their own abilities. First up is our star, Pomni. I'm going to start with a basic rectangle for her head. Here are 2 white ones for her eyes, and her pupils are a mix of red and blue. I'm going to taper her upper body by angling 4 rectangles. Now she needs 2 yellow buttons. Now I'm doing the same thing for her lower torso, so she has a little bit of a waist. Now here's the 2 yellow stripes that she has at the top of her legs, and we're going to intersect some pieces here to form her shorts. We need a long, thin piece for her leg, and I'm using 2 separate pieces to form her foot. Now I'm going to do the same thing for her other leg. To start her arm, I'm going to use 3 intersecting pieces for her sleeve, another long, thin piece for her arm, a yellow piece for her wrist, and a blue rectangle for her hand. The other arm is exactly the same, except the hand is red. There's an interesting theory out there that Pomni, or the real-world version of her, was involved in creating the Amazing Digital Circus. It makes sense to me, because she has such a strong reaction to seeing this computer, which seems to be a replica of the one where the entire simulation is running. So maybe if she got abstracted, it would just be Amazing Digital Karma. To form Pomni's hair, I'm going to use some thin rectangles to give it some dimension. For her patches of abstraction, I'm going to make different colored eyes. Here's one on her back, one on her stomach, and now to start her hat, I'm going to put a yellow rectangle here. I'll angle the next piece so it starts to tilt backwards. These next pieces are going to be even more curved, and the tips of her hat are going to be formed by multiple rectangles coming to a point. And finally, we add the yellow pom-poms. Okay, so her head tilt seems a little bit exaggerated, but that's fine. That only adds to how crazy she looks, and that was totally on purpose. I planned that. Her head can look around, her arms and legs move, and her body sways when she walks. She's got a pretty crazy look in her eye, so I think you should subscribe to save her from abstracting all the way. Now, I think we all know how helpless Pomni is in the Amazing Digital Circus, but let's give our half-abstracted Minecraft version of her some cool abilities. If you choose to attack her, she won't fight back, but she can create echoes of herself all around you so you don't know which one is the real Pomni. I call this ability Memory Echoes. Why? Well, in the show, she seems to run away when she's scared, so it makes sense for her to be a passive mob in Minecraft. And while she's forgotten almost everything about her life before entering the circus, she seems to remember something about this computer, sort of like an echo of a memory. Also, fun fact, the word Pomni in Russian roughly translates to remember. So Pomni should have no trouble remembering that she's being held prisoner by the cheerful, creepy, and chaotic duo, Cain and Bubble. To start Cain off, I'm going to use a pink rectangle for his torso. I'm going to angle his upper body similar to how I did Pomni's, and here's the top of Cain's pants. Now I need 3 black rectangles for Cain's upper leg, lower leg, and foot, and it's the same thing for his other leg. Here's the beginning of his coattail, and I'm going to angle the rest of these pieces so they can come to a point. We can't forget about his bow tie. I'll add a short pink piece here for his upper arm, another one for his lower arm. I'll make his cuff stick out a little bit, and it's the same thing for his other arm. I'm going to angle some rectangles to form the bottom half of Cain's teeth, and one more time for the upper teeth. Now Cain straight up says that he controls the entire Amazing Digital world, so of all the characters in the show, he and Bubble are the least likely to get abstracted. They're not trying to escape because they're right at home, doing exactly what they were made to do. Which for Bubble is, getting popped and cooking, I guess? And for Cain, it's using his power to create all kinds of pointless capers for his captives. Were these weird adventures supposed to be for their entertainment or for his? Or maybe for the hundreds of all-seeing eyes? Who's to say? For each of Cain's eyes, I'm going to intersect 2 pieces so they look a little bit rounded. For some reason, his pupils are different colors. Now he needs his top hat, so I'm going to make a black rectangle right here, and I'll intersect 2 more to form the brim. Now for Cain's abstraction, I'm going to use the same eyes that I used on Pomni. I'll add one more on his leg down here, and one next to his top hat. I almost forgot that Cain needs a cane, so let's add that. And now it's time to start on Bubble. Here are 2 pieces for the top and bottom of his mouth, 2 more outside of those to round him out a little bit. Now I'm going to close off his head on each side, and he needs some pointy teeth. Someone should probably tell Pomni that Cain is really easily distracted by flowers. For Cain's animations, I made his mouth open and close a little bit, his legs and arms sway back and forth, and Bubble moves up and down just a little bit. I used a bee for the base of Cain, and the sound effects are honestly working for me. Obviously, we can see that Cain has some abstraction going on, but Bubble was just too pure. I couldn't do that to him. And he was also too little. I don't know how to fit an eye on that adorable tiny little body. For Cain's new abilities, I think he needs to be just as powerful in Minecraft as he is in the Amazing Digital Circus. So let's give him the ability to teleport himself and other mobs and players wherever he wants, like he does when he's giving Pomni the tour of the circus grounds. And he can also terraform the area around him to create obstacles and challenges for the humans trapped in his world. Suddenly, in lava flows, deep chasms, and mazes appearing out of nowhere? Yeah, you never know what's gonna happen when Kane's around. And we can't forget about Bubble. If you somehow manage to defeat Kane, you get to keep Bubble as your own AI virtual assistant, following you around like a tamed dog or cat, and even giving you small, helpful health boosts when you're out fighting mobs. And having Bubble on your side will really come in handy if you happen to run into the sassy and sarcastic Jax. To start Jax off, I'll use a long rectangle for his torso. I'll add another one to round out his shoulders, and he needs a long, thin neck. I'm going to intersect 3 pieces to round out his head, and he needs some long, thin ears. Here's a long, thin rectangle for the first part of Jax's leg, a slightly thicker one for his lower leg, and a purple rectangle for his foot. Now I do the same thing for his other leg. Now, there's no way around it. Jax is kind of a jerk, so I'd like to believe that his complete disregard for the well-being of others is a result of being trapped in an unfair world, which he knows is a simulation. Basically, he treats everyone like they're NPCs, and he doesn't seem to care what happens to himself either, because he's always aware that the whole circus is fake. He's also the only human character to talk directly to the audience, which could mean that on some level, he's aware of what's outside the simulation too. To start his arm, I'm using a thin purple piece. Here's his lower arm, a yellow rectangle for his cuff, and we'll finish it off with one more for his hand. And now I'll do the same thing for his other arm. To start off his abstraction, I'm putting an eye on his back, another on his arm, one more on his stomach, and a last one on his foot. Okay, of all the mobs I've done so far, I think I really nailed the facial expression on Jax. He can move his head to look around, and his arms and legs move when he walks, obviously. Now his base is technically a spider, but I wouldn't call Jax neutral, although it does give him the pretty cool ability to climb walls, even if he looks kind of weird doing it. It would be fitting to give Jax abilities based on his actions in the show, so I'm creating a whole new category of mob just for him. Unpredictable. Not quite passive, not quite aggressive, he attacks nearby players and mobs whenever he feels like it. He also has the unique ability to intimidate hostile mobs into leaving him alone after he provokes them, based on how nobody in the Amazing Digital Circus seems to retaliate after he's done something mean. Especially Kinger, who seems to be the most defeated of them all. We're gonna start off with a purple rectangle for Kinger's body. I want to be able to flex his torso, so I'm gonna divide it into 3 separate sections. Here's the middle third, and here's the top third. Now I'm going to add some rectangles to the top so his collar is higher in the back than it is in the front. Now I'm going to expand some rectangles to make the main part of his neck, and now I need to duplicate some rectangles to make these rivets. Here's a nice big rectangle for his face. I'm going to round out the top of his head like this, and here's how you know that he's a king. I'm going to make sure his eyes are really sticking out of his head, and his pupils are super tiny. Now I personally don't buy that Kinger has really lost his marbles. What if that's just a red herring, and he's actually the one who's learned the most about the crazy circus world? He's had the most time to figure things out after all. And since there was once a queen chess piece, who we can only guess has already been abstracted, Kinger could have had a close-up look at what exactly the abstraction process is. For the fur around his collar, I'm going to break it up into a lot of little cubes so I have more flexibility. Now I need to extend it down the front like this, and 2 more pieces for the other sections of the body, and a bunch more little cubes for the fur around the bottom of the robe. To make his hand look curled, I'm going to use 4 different pieces. Here's one for the palm, and the back of the hand, and here's his thumb, and the same thing for his other hand. And now I'll just put abstracted spots all over his robe. I used a pig as Kinger's base, and they're pretty common, so you don't have to go far to find one. His head movements are pretty exaggerated, like Pomni's. For his walk animation, I made his body wobble back and forth, which hopefully was a good solution to him basically just being a big cylinder. And for the animation of his hand swinging, I pretended that he had a whole arm and put the pivot point where his shoulder would be. When he runs, it looks like he's doing a little dance, which I find pretty funny. Okay, don't put saddles on Kinger pigs. This is awkward. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Kinger doesn't mean any harm, but he can't really control himself at times. So I decided to give him a glitch ability that makes his hands go flying in completely random and far-reaching swings. If you happen to be in the path of one of them, it's going to hurt. He's also easily overwhelmed, so when he's attacked by a hostile mob, or if Jax is in one of his moods, Kinger builds a pillow fort to hide in until the threat is gone. Too bad there isn't enough room in the fort for Gangle to join in, because she really needs the comfort. Gangle's body is just made of ribbons, so I'm going to use 3 intersecting pieces to form a cylinder for her torso, and only paint parts of them so the rest is transparent. And her mask is curved, so I'm going to put each rectangle at a little bit of an angle like this. And I just gotta do the same thing for the other half of her face. Gangle seems to be the comedy and tragedy masks come to life, but the only side we get to see is her sad one, because her comedy mask breaks so early in the episode. She has a hard time seeing the bright side after that, although it's been hinted that she has a 3rd mask as well. Fun fact, Gangle also likes to draw anime. Because her limbs are made of ribbons, I'm just gonna use flat planes. And I need 3 pieces for her upper leg, her lower leg, and her foot. And it's the same thing for her other leg. Her arm has more curves to it, so I'm gonna use a lot of shorter planes and put each of them at a slightly completely different angle, and her other arm is exactly the same. Yes, I forgot to abstract her. Sorry! Since Gangle is so sad, I thought a turtle would be perfect for her base so she would walk slowly, and I think it worked. Although, the only place she seems to want to be is in the water, which looks kind of strange. I guess turtles' walk animations are way more exaggerated when they're swimming, so she looks like that. It's a little ironic that the saddest character is the one that's bringing me the most joy. For my partially abstracted Minecraft version of Gangle, I decided to pretend that she still has both of her masks intact and can switch from one to the other at random. When she's happy, she shares her joy with nearby players, giving them a jump boost like a beacon. But you don't want to be around her when she gets sad, because that jump boost gets replaced by a slowness effect. And if you hit her, she can summon a thunderstorm with her tears of sadness. Subscribe if you want me to remake more mobs!